Yo guys, what is up? Max for a Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over my LycanVolt 3.0. I just wanted to share with you guys what I used for leveling. I already put out my human Lightning Storm variant. I'm now at level 100, and I used Lightning Storm to get up to level 100 in a day of playing. We hit level 100 in the first 15 hours of season launch. So it felt really great. Lightning Storm is really good. I know people are hyping up Tornado, and Tornado is amazing, but you need a lot better gear to be able to run Tornado. It's a little bit more specific. Lightning Storm, the big thing about why you should play it so early and why it feels so great to me right now is because of the clarity snapshot. I kind of talked about this in my last video, but right now, if you're using companions with Lightning Storm, if you click all of your companion skills, and then you cast Lightning Storm, you snapshot this clarity buff. Clarity reads, after casting a companion skill, your next core wrath skill's damage and crit strike chance are increased by 15% up to 45%. As long as you're holding down Lightning Storm, you are guaranteed 45% crit chance and 45% crit damage. That is absurd, and it makes for doing Helltides incredibly easy, bossing really strong. The build is just very powerful, and it's kind of, you get a ton of help by getting easily over 65 crit chance with just a few crit rolls on your gear. It's fantastic, and so that's why we're going to talk about Lightning Storm first. So real quick, just an overview of what's changing. First off, Tempers are making Lightning and Storm builds way stronger than they've ever been. I was hitting for 1,000,000 damage at level 70 on this build, which took me about to level 100 last season to start seeing millions on Lightning Storm, which is crazy. And a big reason for that is the new Tempers that give us a damage increase to distant enemies. For Lightning Storm, you're going to want to look for damage to distant. For Tornado, you're going to look for damage to close. But as you can see, I've got a mace on. Obviously, this isn't the perfect god roll item. I would rather have an axe. But this 264% damage to distant is a massive additive damage increase for what I'm going to be doing. But if we go to my Paragon board and we go to the Thunderstruck node, you can see that right now it's not perfectly as high as I can get it. I haven't really started masterworking my gear yet, but I'm doing 100% multiplicative damage increase with my storm skills. Getting this online with a few tempers at level 60 or 50, however early you start tempering, is ridiculous amounts of damage and will allow you to catapult with your storm builds. You do not need a Tempest Roar to benefit from this. It's just your storm skills, and that makes the human Lightning Storm and human Tornado really strong, and it only gets stronger once you do get your hands on a Tempest Roar. I was lucky enough to get one in Helltides, so I played a Wolf Storm, and that's incredibly strong. But just note that you can do this build entirely as a human Lightning Storm, and I'll have a link in the description to a human Lightning Storm Paragon planner. That's really the big thing that changes is the Paragon board. Your skill tree isn't going to change as much. So to start, we're going to go over our gear. I'm wearing a Tempest Roar in my helmet. If you do not have a Tempest Roar, you're most likely going to want to be using a basic skill on your bar, and then I would use the Aspect of Might that gives you 20% damage reduction whenever you basic attack an enemy. On your chest piece, I was looking for max life, armor, and spirit per second. You get willpower here is also awesome. I just rolled a double greater affix for some healing received, but ideally, if I had an armor roll here, I'd actually be pretty much at armor cap, so looking to replace this chest piece later. I've also got the unsung aesthetic wraps. These are more important for the build than Tempest Roar. They allow your Lightning Storm to strike additional times, and every time you crit, it deals additional damage, which is fantastic. It rolls with ranks into Lightning Storm, ranks of Defiance, crit chance, lucky hit, all fantastic things. These gloves just pump your damage up so much, and there's so many synergies that they have with them because you basically are doubling up on the damage of Lightning Storm. Next up on my pants, I've got willpower, max life, and armor. You're just looking for willpower, max life, armor here. If you can, spirit per second is also nice, but once you get Tempest Roar online, you really don't need that much spirit. I would try to find it on one piece of gear, and we're using the damage reduction while shapeshifted into a werewolf. If you are not at armor cap, you could use another armor thing here, which would be pretty solid. But yeah, because I'm shapeshifting into Tempest Roar, I'm going to use the 15% damage reduction while shapeshifting into a werewolf. Next up on your boots, I'm going max life, willpower, and movement speed. And then now on your boots, you can actually get +6 ranks to Digit Trait Gait. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I've currently got 15 out of 3 points into this skill to give me 60% movement speed while I'm in werewolf form, which is absurd. Obviously, if you are not rocking a Tempest Roar quite yet, you're going to look for the movement speed roll here. You can roll up to 12% movement speed on your boots, and then you can get like 12.5 more. So it's fine if you don't have a Tempest Roar. You just go for movement speed instead of Digitrate Gate as your like temper roll. Then for your weapon, you're looking for I personally am going to go for willpower max life on most of my weapons, and then the third thing doesn't matter as much. If you're having resource issues, you go with resource cost. Crit damage is great for Lightning Storm because we're going to be critting basically everything. And then I went for damage to distant and the lucky hit chance for Lightning Storm to deal extra flat damage. There's not as many great things. You could go Lightning Storm duration here. I found it wasn't really needed, but the lucky hit for flat lightning is quite nice. Then for our aspects, once we get into our damage, we're using the Shepherd aspect. Obviously, we want to be using all three of our companion skills so that we can snapshot for 45% crit chance. The companions are doing so much for us here. They're giving us the crit chance, the crit damage. They're giving us the flat damage with the Shepherd for a ridiculous almost up to 180% multiplier for our Lightning Storm. On our amulet, we're using Lightning Dancers, which makes all of our lightning crits spawn dancing bolts. We have a ridiculous amount of crit chance on this build, so these are a ton of damage for us. On the amulet, I went for max life, crit chance, and envenom, and then obviously I'd rather have damage to close, and then I went for more movement speed on my amulet. On our ring, the things that you're looking for are exactly basically what I have: willpower, max life, and crit chance, damage to distance, resource cost reduction. These are basically, it's pretty much my perfect ring right now, which is awesome. And then you're looking for the Stampede aspect. This gives you an extra companion, which synergizes with the Shepherd aspect. So now I have 2 Poison Creepers, 4 Ravens, and 3 Wolves, which just gives me even more bang for my buck with the Shepherd aspect. And lastly, the Hunter Zenith. Hunter Zenith is incredible. To use this, you do need a Tempest Roar, but every time you kill with a Lightning Storm ability, you're going to get your next Werebear skill for free. So you get infinite tramples, infinite debilitating roars. You just kill with Lightning Storm, click debilitating roar, kill with Lightning Storm, click debilitating roar. It's really simple. You have a ton of survivability and do a ton of damage. If you do not have a Tempest Roar, you're obviously not going to be using a Hunter Zenith. I would recommend the aspect of the Inner Calm, which is when you stand still, you get damage. The overloading aspect is also pretty good. You could also use the retaliation aspect. You get more core skill damage when you're fortified. All of those would be suitable replacements, and then you're just looking for even more of these kind of damage to distant rolls. For our skill tree, put 2 points into any basic attack you want. I recommend leveling with Wind Shear as your basic attack, and you can get Fierce Wind Shear for the movement speed. Once you're at endgame, you're not going to need a basic attack. We have so much spirit regeneration. Next up, for your next cluster, we're going Lightning Storm with the extra Lightning Storm Strike. If you're leveling, I like Primal Lightning Storm, which immobilizes enemies. You can get some damage multipliers against immobilized enemies, and also you can pair like an Umbral Ring to get spirit back whenever you immobilize. But right now we're going Raging Lightning Storm. Then we're putting 1 point Predatory. Crit chance is nice. We're trying to keep enemies at a distance though, so we're not using this. And then we're putting a ton of points into Digitrate Gate for the ridiculous amount of movement speed that it gives us. Then we've got our Ancestral Fortitude, Resistances, Damage Reduction, and Debilitating Roar. Pretty standard setup there. We are not putting any points into Poison Creeper besides just activating it. The reason for this is you're just going to want to be clicking your companion abilities. Doesn't matter if you're clicking them on an enemy, they're really not doing all that much for you. We have so much crit chance and we're trying to keep enemies away that we're just going to be trying to basically click Poison Creeper off of cooldown to keep up clarity. When I was leveling using Brutal Poison Creeper. Once you're into endgame, it's really not that important. Then we're going Wolves. I don't need these doing anything else. We're just 1 point there. We've got Nature's Reach for the damage to distant. Then we've got Clarity, our Ravens. It is important to go down Brutal Ravens. The main reason here is it adds 2 additional Ravens, which once again is like 40% more damage for us with our Shepherd aspect. Trample, down to Savage Trample to give us Spirit. You could eventually change this to Natural Trample. I do still like it as just an emergency kick of Spirit if I need it. Then we go Neurotoxin, Envenom, Toxic Claws. I am down to Circle of Life, Nature Magic skills that consume Spirit Heal you. This gives us a ton of healing. We do have a ton of health. Defiance for a more damage multiplier to damage to elites. Then we've got points into Quick Shift. When shapeshifting into a new animal form, we deal increased damage. And we're also using Heightened Senses, so that whenever we shapeshift into a werebear, we're getting damage reduction. We're constantly shapeshifting into a werebear. So this is giving us 20% damage reduction and 20% movement speed. And quick shift is stacking up a ton because we're constantly shapeshifting into bears and then wolves, bears and wolves for more damage there. And then for the keystone, I think Ursign's the best here. We don't need Bestial Rampage. Attack speed, and this Ursign gives us more health for more survivability, and I don't have to worry about having to be in werebear form. If you did want to get like a little bit more damage, a less survivability, Bestial Rampage is the better play because it's the 50%, but I went for the 30% and the more health. I'm stacking up a lot of health on basically everything, so 20% additional max health is kind of crazy. Just sitting in town right now, I've already got 29%, so then we shapeshift into a werewolf. Werebear, we're getting even more health. And obviously we don't benefit from the attack speed at all on Lightning Storm. And that is our skill tree. Real quick, I just want to go over the boss rotation for this, for gameplay. So the big thing when you're approaching a boss is that you use all of your companion skills before you start channeling. So as you can see, as soon as I enter, I'm clicking wolves. I click my Poison Creeper. Notice that I don't hit them with Poison Creeper. The main thing is just to get these skills out. Whether they hit or not isn't as important. Just get them out as fast as possible. And then as soon as I do that, I'm going to make sure that I back up from the boss. We really want to make sure that the damage to distant bonuses are all activated. They're a ton of damage. So you'll note that as soon as I do that, I walk away. And then as soon as I start channeling, instead of actually tapping against bosses, which is normally what you do, I actually am just holding because of the clarity buff. Clarity gives us a ton of damage. So then we just hold, and then we let our lightning storm rip. And as you'll see, boss is gone very quickly. For our Spirit Boons, we're going Wariness for the reduced damage from elites, Iron Feather for the 14% max life. This is like a must-have node for every Druid build, with life being probably one of the most important defensive stats in the game now, if not the most important defensive stat in the game. Obviously, Avian Wrath for the crit damage multiplier. I go Pack Leader, which allows you to, whenever you critically strike with our skills, we have a chance to reset our companions. Lightning Storm is actually pretty solid at resetting companion skills. And obviously, the more skills that you can keep using, the more uptime we have on the clarity buff, which is a huge damage increase. And then lastly, you can go Overload. I used Overload for leveling to get some AoE clear until I had Lightning Dancers. And then ideally at endgame, you're using Masochistic. This gives us a percentage heal. Once again, this is a 75% chance on lucky hit to heal for 1,400 life because it's based off of our current life pool, which is a ton of healing. So Masochistic is really great. Once again, we're not using like an ultimate skill, so we don't need Calamity or Calm Before the Storm. Real quick before we get into the Paragon board, I just wanted to state that the gameplay that you saw, I wasn't using the Electrocution glyph, which gives you a 20% damage multiplier whenever we hit with our lightning bolts and dancing bolts. And I wasn't using the Fulminate glyph, which gives you increased lightning damage and stacking increased lightning damage to healthy and injured enemies. The only reason for this is because I do plan on swapping to a Tornado. So I leveled the Tornado glyphs and just put them in the Lightning Storm board. Just to give you an idea of like how crazy this build will be with the proper setup, because all of this gameplay is pretty insane. But once again, I'm not using like the right things. But I did just want to share that. That's why when we're looking over the Paragon board, it's going to be on max roll and a like specific build planner rather than what I'm currently using. This is the board that I will be respeccing into. The big thing that you want to focus on in Paragon boards in Season 4 is these little blue magic nodes that give you percentage increase to max life. The reason these are so good is because these are actually multiplicative with each other. Doesn't say that, but they are multiplicative with each other. Once we've got this build respect and I've got this upgraded Paragon board, we'll probably get a fair bit more health on our planner. We're sitting at 40,000 HP, which is crazy. But make sure you're grabbing all of these magic nodes. They are really important, and the more that you grab, the more bang for your buck that you're actually going to get out of them. So in our first board, we're going to be going Territorial. The main reason for Territorial is obviously we're going to be using Thunderstruck. Territorial, that damage to close, is a multiplier, and if enemies do get close to us, we're going to get DR against them. Then we're moving up into the Heightened Malice board. Heightened Malice, not as great for Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm struggles with single target, doesn't struggle with mobbing, so we don't need this because this is really just a mobbing bonus. So we're gonna slap Earth and Sky in here. This gives us damage to poisoned enemies, damage reduction from poisoned enemies, and we're gonna grab all of these damage to poison, damage reduction from poisoned enemies. And then we're gonna be moving up to the Constricting Tendrils board and grabbing Courage for this big max life increase and all of the max life nodes here. Then we're working our way up into the Thunderstruck board. Oh, also, the glyph here is Spirit. Spirit's going to give us crit damage and also a stacking multiplier whenever we're critting. Then Thunderstruck board. Our Thunderstruck bonus is going to be at 154% if we can get everything min-maxed, which is ridiculous. That's 50% more damage than I've got right now. We're grabbing Lightning Resilience for extra max life and more resistance. More crit damage here, all the crit damage here. We've got the Shapeshifter. Whenever we shapeshift, we're going to have our chance to critically strike. The way that this works is you're going to like cast your companions, right? And then you lightning storm, and then you basically have 100% crit chance, which is insane. And then we go Keeper. Keeper's going to give us that 10% increase to non-fizz damage, which is very, very nice. Which obviously lightning is another multiplier. We're going to get more resistances and more core skill damage. And then we're also going to be grabbing Ancestral Guidance for the 30% damage multiplier whenever we're spending our Spirit. And then lastly, we've got our Survival Instincts board where we're going to put Exploit. Exploit will make everything vulnerable for us. Once again, we don't really care about the like Werebear augments, so we just skip past those. Just make sure that we get Exploit, so that's another 20% damage multiplier for us. We're going to go for the Electrocution glyph in the Lust for Carnage board. This is going to give us, every time we critically strike, we're going to get 2 Spirit back. We're basically going to be like capped crit chance once we're like casting our companions, plus we shapeshift. So everything is going to give you Spirit back, which is insane. And then Electrocution, whenever we hit with our Lightning Bolts or Dancing Bolts, we're going to get a damage multiplier. And then our last board, we've got Lust for Carnage, where we've got the Lust for Carnage node, which whenever we critically strike with our Lightning Storm, we get 2 Spirit back. Once again, whenever we're shapeshifting and we're casting our companion skills, we're basically at 100% crit chance. So this is just a ridiculous amount of Spirit for all of the Lightning Bolts hitting. And remember, if we're using Ascetic, those Lightning Bolts hit twice, even though they only cost 1 times the Spirit. So we're getting double the value out of this node. And then we're going to slap in Electrocution. We've got Dancing Bolts on the Amulet. So anytime that enemies get hit by this, they're going to take a 20% damage multiplier. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. There will be a whole written max roll guide. I wrote the max roll guide for Lightning Storm last season. Boiler and I swapped for this season. So he wrote it, I edited it and reviewed it. And Lightning Storm is fantastic. I can't understate how good it is for getting to 100 and getting everything online and farming. It's not going to be as good as like Tornado for Pit 200 and Uber bosses, but this is a fantastic setup right now because of the crit chance, because of the damage, that you are able to just blast to the highest levels, get your Nightmare Dungeons, get your glyphs leveled, and then if you like to swap over to a Tornado, once you have everything going for you.